My humble pranams to my dear beloved Baba. It's such a wonderful opportunity for me to speak about my experiences with Swami. My heart is always full when I talk about Swami. Swami, I was very blessed to have Swami come into my life, or Swami to draw me to him at a very young age, when I was 8. And the circumstances around which were very interesting. My mom had gone to India at the time, and she was visiting some relatives who had talked to her about this holy man in Puttaparthi, and said, "Have you heard about Sai Baba?" And she didn't really pay attention much. She said, "No, I haven't heard about him. I'm not so interested." But they said, no, you must read about him a little bit. And so as she was leaving India, one of the relatives gave her the book Man of Miracles and said, "Just put this in your purse and read it when you get back to Canada." We were living in Canada at the time. And so she's okay. My mom was a religious person, had a lot of faith in God, but they had not really looked at any particular gurus or anything like that. So she put the book in her purse, and then they went to the airport. So after that, so my mother tells the story. I was only 8 at the time, but they were on a flight back to Canada, and there was a problem with en route, a problem with the landing gear, and the pilot was very upset about it. And they told all the passengers that they were going to have a crash landing, and they put the oxygen mask down. Everybody had to put their heads down, and so it was quite an emergency. And my brother was there at the time with my mom. And when my mom heard this, she started praying, and then she remembered the book that was in her purse, and she pulled out the book and she said, "If you are truly God, who they say you are, then you please make us arrive safely, have a safe landing." And as the story she tells us is that they landed without event. Everybody was safe. There was no major problem. And the pilot came on board, and he said, on the overhead, and he said, "Dear passengers, today we had a miracle." He said, "I did not land this plane. It was a miracle that this plane was landed like this, so safely." And everybody was safe and departed. So my mom came home, and about a week and a half later, we were all sitting in the living room, a couple of weeks later, and she asked us to all sit there together and said, "Let's just do some prayer and say thanks to God that we arrived home safely in such a difficult situation." So we all did, and we were young kids, 4 children. I had 4 siblings. And after a little while, we all got up, but my older sister didn't get up. And after that, I think that's a personal story of hers, but after that, we started having so many miracles happen in the home. We had a picture in the living room, just a natural painting scenery. And then suddenly vibhuti started coming on that picture the next day after this happened. And when the vibhuti came, my father, who was a physician, he was of a scientific mind, he would say, oh, this is just dust. And he would wipe it off and say, this is, not real. And we didn't know much about vibhuti. We had no idea. But my mom had that book, Man of Miracles. So she had read some of these stories, and we realized that it was vibhuti. And so time went on, and my father wiped it several times, but the vibhuti kept coming back. And then the painting, the vibhuti on the painting, started to form a set of hands, folded hands. The picture was of folded hands. And every day, the picture would change and evolve. In our front of our eyes, we would go down the next morning, and the picture would change, the vibhuti would change, and slowly the hands opened up and turned into a face. And what was amazing was that when the face started to appear, that anybody who would come to our home, they would see the face of their own guru. If they were Christian, they would see Jesus. If they were Sikh, they would see Guru Nanak. If they were Krishna devotees, they would see Krishna. And so it was just amazing. And the vibhuti was not a white vibhuti. The vibhuti was a purple vibhuti, shiny purple vibhuti, which I have not seen in my life any other time, but beautiful purple vibhuti. And slowly the picture evolved. The faces were there. People were coming to our home. And as a young child of 8, 9, I could see this happening in front of my eyes. And if I look back, that was the first message of Swamis, of the Sarva Dharma, that everybody saw their own guru, their own religion there. It was such a beautiful message, which I didn't understand at the time. But reflecting back, that was Swami's message to us. And over time, because we had a Krishna picture in the home, over time, a replica of the Krishna picture developed in this scenery in the living room. Beautiful Krishna painting. It was with purple and blue, with bansuri, with a flute, and beautiful picture. It was in color vibhuti. It was beautiful, and we still have that today. It lies in my sister's home. So, watching all these miracles, it took about a year. Many more miracles happened. There was another vibhuti painting of Mata, Durga Mata, which appeared again. And as a young child, watching all these miracles happen in the home, one could not believe, right? They were just there experiencing them all the time. And we were so immersed in these beautiful bhajans and the experiences. It went on for about almost a year. And I remember singing bhajans. And when we were singing bhajans, we had about 5 or 6 families at that time who were Swami's devotees in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And we were just singing bhajans, and sometimes we would find supari underneath someone's, everybody would find supari underneath their knees when they're sitting down. Sometimes we'd find ilachi and just things like that. There were other times when we were singing bhajans that vibhuti would come. So many different experiences. I remember one experience very vividly. Swami had told us that he'd given a message to one of the family members that he would come and show his full form, full Atma Swarupa form. And we were so excited. We said, Swami's going to show us his true form. And so we all got ready. We were having those 5 families. We were having bhajans. And he said he would come at 8 o'clock. That was the message we got. So we were all there, ready to sing bhajans. We were singing bhajans. My dad or mom, they locked the door so that we wouldn't get disturbed. We were sitting there, and just before they were going to start the bhajans at 8 o'clock, there was a doorbell rang, and we didn't want to be disturbed, so we didn't answer the doorbell, and we were all waiting, and so we didn't answer the doorbell. And then suddenly, time was going by. So the doorbell rang again, and my dad got up. He said, let me check. Maybe Swami is at the door. So he opened the door, and there was no one there, but there was a newspaper on the ground. And when my dad looked out the door, down the road, there was a boy who in orange clothes was going away. And we were all then came back in, and we started doing bhajans, but my dad came back in the room and just said there was nobody there, just this boy left a newspaper. So then when we finished the bhajans, we were all disappointed. Swami said, he's going to come. He didn't come. And so when we opened, then my father said, okay, let me just open that paper. This is what the paper was. He opened the paper. There was all vibhuti in the paper, in the newspaper, inside. And so we knew Swami had come. And then we got the message through one of the family members. Swami said, I came, but you didn't let me in. And you're not ready to see my Atma Swarup in my full form, because it's so powerful. And you have to be ready. So Swami is so many of these vivid memories I have as a child, that I felt, Swami was somehow, when I was at that age, I didn't feel Swami was someone to be revered. I felt Swami was my friend. I would talk to Swami when I would go, anytime I'd have any trouble, I would just talk to Swami. I would pray to Swami, talk to Swami, just converse with Swami, that this is what I'm going through. And it was, Swami was near and dear to me. Partly a mother, father figure, partly to be rude, but partly very close. And that was a beautiful relationship, I think, that Swami had given me at that time. That when we feel that Swami is that close to us, we can share anything with him. And so these experiences really solidified my faith in Swami. And the miracles continued to happen. There were many, many more that I can share. But I still remember one time it was on Krishna Janmashtami. And Swami, we were going to do bhajans, and we came down that next morning on the day of Janmashtami. And there was, we had made a separate mandir for Swami. Now we had built an extension, so we made a separate mandir. And when we had two curtains that were lying in front of the mandir, and the curtains had been taken and folded like this, so they made a jhoola. The two shears came and were wrapped around each other. They made a jhoola, and underneath the jhoola, there was two small footprints in purple vibhuti underneath. So, small Krishna's footsteps. And the jhoola was there, and we could see it moving. So, such beautiful experiences that I had when I was a child. And then, they stopped. One more, which was actually a very profound, very, very, probably one of my most cherished memories of Swami's miracles when I was young, was when we were in the living room. Family members were there, and we were playing one of those old original albums of Swami where he would be singing bhajans himself. And in the beginning of that album, I vividly remember there's a little discourse about the avatar, and then there's bhajans, Swami singing. And I was 9 years old, so I was sitting there and I was singing the bhajans after Swami, repeating the bhajans, and I was closing my eyes, and everybody else was moving around, and for me, I did not want to get up until the bhajans were finished. So I was sitting there, and as I was singing the bhajans, people were talking, moving around in the room, and I hear a bit of commotion, and people were talking something, but I was focused on the bhajans, intently focused on the bhajans. And then I felt a hand come on top of my head and just put their hand on my head like that. And I remember still vividly feeling a little annoyed, thinking, why is my brother or my parent or someone disturbing me? They know I'm singing bhajans, and why do they want to disturb me? Anyways, a few minutes after the bhajans finished, I got up, and it's because I had felt someone come there, and I got up, and everybody was talking because everybody found vibhuti on some part. Someone felt it saw it on their belt. Someone had vibhuti on their arm. Everybody had some vibhuti somewhere, and then everybody started looking at me and said, Nishi, there's vibhuti on your head. And so you could see 3 finger marks of vibhuti on my head, and I'd known that Swami had come and blessed me. And I knew in my heart that was what Swami said. When you are focused and focused on me, and your concentration and your devotion is directly to me, I am there to bless you. So it was, as a young child, he had rewarded me for that devotion and single-focused mind on him, that I think that really, at a very subconscious level, made me feel very close. So Swami, for me, in all my different involvement in the Sai organization, I always used to worry, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. I can't do this role. I can't do that role. I can't do this role. And so one of the beautiful words that Sister Kanchana had told me was, I wanted to do value parenting. She wanted me to do value parenting. I said, Sister Kanchana, I don't feel I'm a good enough parent. I don't have all these values. I'm not able to teach my children all these values. I'm not good enough to do value parenting. She said, Nishi, are you a better parent after taking the course than you were before taking the course? I said, yes, I've really tried. She said, then you're ready. And so that was a message to me. Swami sent that message to me, that if we always try to be better, one step better, then we can fulfill any role that we are needing to do in his journey. And sometimes we say we don't have time to do this, or time to do Swami's work, or time to do that. And then I look at all these people and say, my goodness, they are doing 10 times more than I am. And how can I say I don't have time? It's, Swami says you should just have the will and the desire to do it, and he will take care of the rest. Jai Sai Ram.